I knew something was wrong the moment I saw the envelope, thick, official-looking, and taped shut like it was hiding state secrets. But what really froze me was a return address, Red Maple Estates Homeowners Association. I didn't live in Red Maple Estates. I had never lived in Red Maple Estates. I had never even driven through Red Maple Estates. So why was the HOA sending me mail that looked like it had been dipped in pure, bureaucratic hostility? I tore it open, expecting maybe a misprint, a wrong address, or some harmless bulk mail error. What I got instead felt like a smack across the face. Notice of outstanding fees. Total due, $14,893.72. Failure to remit payment within 30 days will result in legal action. Red Maple Estates HOA Compliance Board. Legal action. $14,000. For a neighborhood I didn't even belong to. At first, I actually laughed. It was too absurd not to. But that laugh didn't last long, not when I noticed how meticulously the document spelled out charges, landscaping violations, unpaid community maintenance fees, and even a fine for an authorized exterior paint color. Exterior paint. My house was a rental duplex 30 miles away that I barely even decorated for Christmas. And now an HOA I'd never heard of was claiming I owed them nearly $15,000. Was this a scam? A clerical error? A prank? Or something worse? As I read deeper, my confusion tangled into disbelief. The letter listed an address, my name, tied to a house I had never owned, and attached at the bottom was a photocopy of what was supposedly my signature on a community contract agreement. Except the signature wasn't mine. Not even close. The handwriting looped in elegant, practice curves. Mine looked like a chicken had tried writing during an earthquake. Whoever forged it didn't even try to imitate my handwriting. They just hoped no one would check. But they made one mistake that changed everything. They thought I'd just fold and pay. The next day I called the HOA office, expecting some apologetic explanation. Maybe the person on the other end would gasp in horror, realize they'd mixed me up with someone else, and assure me they'd fix the whole mess. Yeah, that didn't happen. Instead, a woman answered with a kind of clipped politeness found only in DMV lines and medieval torture chambers disguised as customer service. This is Dana with Red Maple Estates HOA. How can I assist you? Yes. Hi, I said, forcing calm. I got a notice saying I owe nearly $15,000. I don't live in your community. There has to be some mistake. She paused. Name. I gave it. She typed something, keys clacking like angry teeth. No mistake, she said. You're the listed owner of 118 Willow Bend Drive, and these fees have been accumulating for 2 years. 2 years. I repeated, I have never owned that property. According to our documentation, you signed the agreement when you purchased the home. I didn't purchase anything. The signature isn't even mine. Another pause, slower this time, like she was annoyed I had the audacity to argue. Well, sir, she said, the fees must be paid. If you believe there's an error, you may file a dispute, but the full amount is still due while the dispute is processed. Absolutely not. Failure to comply will result in legal escalation. She hung up on me, just like that. I stared at my phone, pulse hammering. Not out of fear. No, this felt like something else. Something hot and sharp. Revenge wasn't on my mind yet. But a storm was building, and they had just lit the first spark. 2 weeks later, a sheriff's deputy knocked on my door and handed me a lawsuit. The HOA had filed an official claim to collect the fees, plus legal costs. They weren't bluffing. They were coming for me, and they were about to find out they picked the wrong person to bully. I called a lawyer the next morning. My cousin, technically, but a pit bull in human form. When I told him what happened, he didn't even let me finish before saying, "Oh, we're going after them." But something still didn't make sense. Why me? Why forge my signature? Why try to tie me to a random property miles away? Then, late that night, the pieces clicked together with a clarity that made my stomach drop. 2 years earlier, I had almost purchased a home. It was a grueling process, and the real estate agent, Carol Archer, had been unusually pushy, practically begging me to consider properties that weren't even officially listed yet. They were all in one area, Red Maple Estates. I walked away from the deal because she wouldn't let up. Something had felt off, though I couldn't pinpoint what at the time. Had she used my information? Had the HOA been in on it? Had they been funneling non-existent owners into their fee system to pad their budgets? The more I thought about it, the more the absurdity turned sinister. And suddenly, the question hit me like a brick. If this HOA was willing to fabricate a homeowner just to extract fake fees, how many other people had they already bled dry? That question burned in my mind. Dangerous, motivating, and impossible to ignore. This wasn't just about clearing my name in them all. This was about exposing them. The court date was set for Friday morning. By then, my lawyer had gathered every scrap of evidence. My rental history, my tax records, even photos proving I lived nowhere near Willow Bend Drive. But the most shocking evidence came from a single document my lawyer managed to pull from county records. It was supposed to be the deed transferring ownership of the Willow Bend property to me. Signed and notarized. Except the notary stamp? Fake. The county had no record of that notary ever being licensed. It was a sloppy forgery, a cheap stamp, an invalid ID number, and the signature of someone who didn't exist. Someone was desperate enough to manufacture an entire homeowner out of thin air. The morning of the hearing, I sat in the hallway outside the courtroom, watching HOA President Leonard Brackett strut around like a rooster in a suit. Short, balding, and red-faced, he looked like he inflated himself with self-importance every morning before brushing his teeth. He glared at me like I was the problem, like I was the scammer. My lawyer leaned over. His nervous. Look at his hands. He was right. Brackett's hands trembled slightly whenever he tried to adjust his tie. Good, because if I had anything to say about it, this was the last time he'd ever threaten anyone again. And as the bailiff opened the doors to call us in, I felt a calm settle over me, a strange, steady calm that felt like justice finally cracking its knuckles. The judge was waiting. The truth was waiting. And the HOA had no idea that their entire empire of fake fees was about to crumble. But before the hearing even began, before the judge said a single word, Brackett leaned toward his attorney and whispered something I couldn't hear. But I saw the fear in his eyes. And in that moment, I knew this wasn't going to end the way they expected. This was going to be the beginning of their downfall, and I was going to enjoy every second of it. The moment we stepped into the courtroom, the air felt charged, like static before a lightning strike. The judge, a sharp-featured woman with silver-framed glasses and the posture of someone who had no patience for nonsense, scanned the room with hawk-like precision. I had a feeling she'd seen every scam imaginable, and she wasn't about to tolerate another. HOA President Leonard Brackett sat across the aisle, sweat already collecting at his receding hairline. His suit looked expensive but ill-fitting, like he bought authority rather than owning it. He kept glancing between me, his lawyer, and the stack of folders in front of him, folders that probably contained the same forged documents they thought would convince the judge I owed nearly $15,000. He didn't realize those documents were about to blow up in his face. The judge called us to order. Red Maple Estates HOA versus. She paused, squinting at the page. The defendant, who apparently doesn't even live in Red Maple Estates. She looked up at Brackett. This should be interesting. I almost smiled. The HOA's attorney, a tall man who seemed to rely more on expensive cologne than actual legal skill, began with what he likely thought was an authoritative voice. Your Honor, this is a simple matter of unpaid community fees. The defendant purchased property at 118 Willow Bend Drive in 2022 and has since accumulated. The judge held up a hand. Save it. Let's start with the basics. She shifted her gaze to me. Do you own property at 118 Willow Bend? No, Your Honor, I said clearly. I never have. Do you live in Red Maple Estates at all? No. Have you ever signed a contract with their HOA? Never. The judge turned to Brackett, fixing him with a stare that could peel paint. So, Mr. Brackett, before we waste the court's time, do you have actual proof this man lives on the property you're suing him over? Brackett cleared his throat. Your Honor, we have documentation, signed agreements and notices. Bring them, she snapped. His lawyer handed her the stack of papers, and she flipped through them with the speed of someone who had dissected thousands of fraudulent claims. Then she stopped, frowned, leaned closer. The signature, she said slowly, is inconsistent. Inconsistent, the HOA's attorney repeated weakly. Inconsistent with reality, she said. Did your organization verify this signature with the county before assessing fees? Brackett's mouth opened, but no sound came out. My lawyer stood. Your Honor, if I may present evidence. The judge gestured for him to proceed. He approached the bench with a folder thick enough to crush a small insect colony. First, we have a defendant's rental history, establishing continuous residence at an address on the opposite side of the county for the past 6 years. He handed the documents to the clerk, who delivered them to the judge. My lawyer continued. Next, we have county property record confirming that the deed to 118 Willow Bend Drive was never transferred to the defendant. In fact, the supposed notary on the deed does not exist. The stamp is fraudulent, and the serial number belongs to a notary who retired a decade ago. The judge's expression hardened. And finally, my lawyer added, we have a handwriting expert preliminary analysis concluding that the signature on the HOA agreement is forged. The judge slowly closed the folder. Mr. Brackett, care to explain why you filed a lawsuit based on fabricated documents? Brackett's face flushed a painful shade of crimson. We were provided that paperwork by the realtor. He stammered. We didn't know it was fake. My lawyer pounced. And what due diligence did you perform before demanding thousands of dollars? We trusted the realtor's information. So none. My lawyer shot back. But Brackett wasn't the only one sweating. His attorney leaned in to whisper something, and for the first time, Brackett's hand shook visibly. The judge tapped her pen sharply. Let me be clear. Filing false documents with the court is a serious offense. I need to understand exactly who forged these signatures and why this HOA targeted someone who never lived in their community. Brackett swallowed. Your Honor, we were told the property transferred ownership. We believed. Who told you? She asked. He froze. That was the moment everything unraveled. My lawyer approached the bench again. Your Honor, we believe this case extends beyond simple negligence. We have reason to suspect coordinated fraud between the HOA board and certain individuals in a real estate agency. Brackett jolted. That's not true. Sit. The judge snapped at him. You will have your turn. My lawyer laid out the pieces like a puzzle snapping into place. The aggressive realtor, Carol Archer, the mysterious listing she tried to push, the eagerness to pre-sign documents and fast-track deals, the fact that multiple homeowners in the area had complained about sudden, unexplained increases in HOA dues. Your Honor, my lawyer continued, it appears this HOA has been inflating its membership rolls by creating fictional property transfers and assigning real people who walked away from deals or never agreed in the first place, to those properties. Once the counter paperwork is forged, the HOA begins billing fees. Most victims are too confused or busy to fight, and they pay a portion to avoid further issues. The judge's eyes widened, slightly, but enough to mark the moment. This isn't just a clerical error, he concluded. It's a pattern, and my client is the one who finally caught them. Brackett's attorney finally rose. Your Honor, my client denies any wrongdoing. These allegations are unfounded. Sit down, she said again, sterner. I don't want excuses. I want facts. She turned back to Brackett. Mr. Brackett, I am ordering a full audit of your HOA, including financial statements, board communications, and membership records for the last 5 years. Brackett made a strangled noise. Your Honor, please. No, she said flatly. You have filed fraudulent claims in my courtroom. You have attempted to extort money from a citizen using falsified documents. And you expect me to believe this was a simple misunderstanding. Silence hung in the room, heavy, absolute. Then the judge leaned forward. This court dismisses the HOA's lawsuit with prejudice. Additionally, I am referring this matter to the district attorney's office for investigation into fraud, forgery, and racketeering. My heart thundered, not just because I had won, but because the judge wasn't done. As for the defendant, she continued, you will be reimbursed for all legal costs. And Mr. Brackett, your organization is prohibited from issuing fees, notices, or liens until the investigation concludes. She slammed her gavel. Next case. It was over. Completely, entirely, beautifully over. Outside the courtroom, Brackett stormed out with the rage of a man whose empire had just been reduced to rubble. His lawyer rushed after him, whispering urgently, but Brackett shoved him away. My lawyer exhaled. Well, he said, that went about as well as possible. I was still processing it. The rush of vindication was almost dizzying. Do you think the DA will really pursue charges? Oh, absolutely, he said. Judges don't refer cases like that lightly. As we walked toward the exit, a woman in a navy blazer approached cautiously. Are you the man who got sued over Willow Bend? She asked. I nodded, unsure what to expect. I think the same thing happened to my sister, she whispered. She's been getting strange HOA bills for months, but she doesn't even own the property they're talking about. We thought it was spam. A chill passed through me. How many others are there? She shook her head. A lot, I think. That was when the full weight of it hit me. This wasn't just a personal victory. This was the start of something much bigger. A reckoning. 3 weeks later, the news broke. Local headlines screamed. DA launches criminal investigation into Red Maple Estates HOA forgery ring suspected in real estate fee scheme. HOA president resigns after courtroom collapse. Brackett was finished. The auditor's report leaked online. Dozens of fake signatures, fraudulent transfers, and tens of thousands of dollars in fees that had never been authorized by any real homeowner. Carol Archer, the realtor, vanished from her office overnight. The state revoked her license within days. And as for the HOA itself, the judge issued a final order. Red Maple Estates HOA was dissolved permanently. Gone. Erased. The same organization that tried to bleed me dry, destroyed under weight of its own corruption. Revenge? No. This was justice. The kind that slams back twice as hard as the blow that started it. And sometimes, justice comes disguised as a lawsuit you never should have received in the first place.